Now. So anything you miss, if you have to jump off early, you'll have an opportunity to revisit this conversation as well as the other member meeting conversations that we've had to date through our NAPE TV, NAPE Equity TV YouTube channel. My name is Gregory Jackson. I'm Associate Director for Membership and Partnership at NAPE. And welcome to our meeting. And empowering young women in non-traditional career environments. One of the things I want to share with you are just a little bit about NAPE and NAPE membership. And then I will transition to our CEO, Brittany Brady, and our wonderful panel. First, just a understanding about NAPE. This is something we call member-to-member connections, or M2M. It's an opportunity for members as well as our partners and collaborators, folks like you, to come together in this community for 1 hour around topics that are topics of your interest. These topics came as a result of your direct feedback to us. And so we're working to provide opportunities for members to connect around these topics and to hear from the field. We call member engagement something we call the three keys, which is discover, connect, and take action. Discover are opportunities to exchange knowledge about what works and what doesn't. You often get that through our NAPE program and NAPE professional development. We do something called Connect, which is adapt equity solutions that create and sustain new partnerships as needed. And connecting is part of what these meetings are all about. How can we connect around the work that we do in this equity sphere? And take action is the third key. Implementing solutions, monitoring progress through policy solutions, and continuously improve through advocacy. Public policy is a very important component of the NAPE experience. There is a public policy committee. Much of the work that we do is in partnership with policy. And so taking action to implement solutions is a very important part of how we view NAPE engagement. To learn more, you can go to our NAPE webpage, and we have a membership page that has been newly refreshed. And it speaks to the different kinds of opportunities that you have as a member, and even those who are curious, who are member curious, to learn about how you can become involved with NAPE. There's a range of kinds of member engagement that we have. Some are what we call 1 hour, which are web-based events and different kinds of content. These monthly member series is one of the ways that we engage members. It's a 1 hour event. We also have things that are 1 day or more. Our in-person events and partner collaborations are often multiple days. An example is the NAPE Annual Summit. Many of you may have heard of it. There's been a call for proposals that's gone out. You can learn more about that by going to our webpage, and certainly the National Summit for Educational Equity is coming up this spring in April. So those are in-person events. And then we have what are 6 months and longer long-term projects. And that's being involved in things like NAPE committees, as well as joining one of a range of affinity groups where we build community and you work on various projects over a 6-month period. Our committees are a very important tool of NAPE and NAPE engagement, because it's really where we take the experiences that we have, and through community, we work on problem solving, we work at building outcomes. Our committees are challenge focused. They're directly related to addressing and responding to member feedback that comes through our survey. They're cross-functional, meaning each committee is led by the NAPE Executive Committee, with a chairperson, and committees are involve 3 to 7 participants in most cases, and could even be larger than that if there's their interest. And they are time bound and outcome driven, meaning committees work together over a period of 6 months or more, basically from October through to the spring, towards meaningful outcomes. And certainly during the summit, there are opportunities to present out on the work of these committees. Um, Committees are led by members, and NAEP staff, like myself, provide the scaffolding to support the work of these committees. And that comes in a different, a wide array in terms of organizing the meetings through Zoom, using Google Documents to document our work and to share out on our work in a collaborative environment. So that's sort of a nickel tour of our overview of NAEP membership. We've refreshed our page. And so there will be opportunities after this meeting to learn a little bit more about NAEP in our member page and this discover, connect, and take action, the 3 keys of engagement and how you can play a role in that, coming soon as a follow-up to this meeting, with the follow-up communication. Before I transition to our wonderful panel and to our CEO, I want to take a moment and just acknowledge NAEP Foundation President, Dr. Liu, who's on the call. Hello. Dr. Liu, you have anything you want to share or thought?
Thought I was on mute, so I was trying to find my mute button. No, I appreciate being here. I'm always interested in learning new things, and this workshop that you're going to learn from today. I used to do workshops back in the 80s. That tells you how old I am. So I know we've improved things since then. So I'm going to be very excited about learning about those things.
Excellent, thank you. And I want to acknowledge publicly Kathy Alden, who's the chair of the Member Services Committee for NAEP. Kathy, if you're on the call, do you want to just say hello, say a few words?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Every one of these experiences just bring a lot of learning and connection, and I'm thankful to be part of this organization.
Thank you, Kathy. So before we get going, I want to hear from you, and I share this at the top of all of our meetings. It's a reflection question, and I ask that those of you who are on the call, and there are over 50 of you, if you can take a moment just to reflect on what resonates with you about this particular topic, empowering young women in non-traditional career environments. And if you can take a minute or two to reflect on that and to share in the chat any thought that you have, or um, what you hope to get from this experience today. If you can put that in the chat, I think we would all be curious to see where you land. And use it as an opportunity as well to introduce yourself, so you can say where you're from. That would be helpful as well. So we'll just take like a minute and then we'll move on. So if you can share in the chat what resonates with you about this particular topic, empowering young women in non-traditional career environments.
We have some great answers coming in,
Yeah,
and
they're
I'm
wonderful.
loving seeing the variety of experiences.
Yeah, these are excellent. Thank you so much. And I'm going to change, I'm going to continue moving the slides, but please continue sharing out because I think all of us can learn a little bit more about you and what you hope to gain. Very helpful. So here we are, today's agenda. I kind of walked through it earlier. We're going to go through introductions of our panel. We're going to have our panel conversation, our fireside chat. There'll be an opportunity for you to share your experience with this particular topic and Q&A with our panel. And then we will wrap things up and ask you to save the date for our next session on February 21st, Equity in Special Education, Ensuring Inclusion and Support in CTE. So without further ado, I am introducing our panel moderator, Brittany Brady, NAEP CEO.
Thank you, Gregory, and thank you everyone for your participation. Gregory, you always get us started with such excitement and ground us all in what brings us here, which is community within membership. And I'm really excited to share with our panelists today because we're really just going to have a conversation about how we can really increase access, especially for young women in non-traditional careers. In the chat, I see people thinking about firefighting and IT and advanced manufacturing and all along the wide spectrum of careers available to young women. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce first Brittany Osazuwa, Director of Workforce Partnerships at CompTIA. Thank you so much, Brittany, for joining us. As the slide denotes, Brittany has been instrumental in forging strategic alliances and partnerships that drive workforce training initiatives for underserved and underrepresented individuals. Her expertise in building and nurturing relationships has been key in expanding CompTIA's reach and impact in the IT industry. When I had the pleasure of speaking with Brittany after another webinar, we were talking about how we just hope to see more impact and more representation across the field, especially in thriving wage career pathways. And so I think you all will be really enriched by her perspective today. Thanks for joining us, Brittany. And then we also have Esperanza Zenon, who is a friend of NAEP, a longtime friend of NAEP. Dr. Zenon is the current past president of the Louisiana Academy of Sciences and is very passionate about STEM equity. She's a member of NAEP and also serves on the advisory leadership team for the Regional Leaders for Open Education. Dr. Zenon is really a phenomenal light and tremendous voice for all underserved students. And really, I've learned so much from you, Dr. Zenon, about seeing the brilliance in all lived experience. And so thank you for joining us today as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And I really enjoy what I'm seeing in the chat because a lot of people are learning how to support young women. And so I want to start off our conversation, Brittany and Dr. and Esperanza, if you will, by letting me know what brings you to this work. Why did you say yes to this speaking opportunity today?
So if it's okay, I'll jump right in. I kind of do that. So cut me off if I go too much. But I think one of the things we have to do is form community around this problem, right? We want to have more females and underrepresented students entering into CTE and STEM. And we can't tackle this problem alone because it's way too much for any one person to be able to fix. And I always get great ideas when I collaborate and contribute to discussions and opportunities with other folk. And NAEP is an excellent forum for sharing the kinds of information and ideas that can help move us forward towards addressing this concern. So I'm happy to be here and share what I know, and I'm hoping that those folk in the audience who have experience and knowledge will contribute as well. So thank you for having me today.
Dr. Zenon, I don't know. I'm gonna echo some of the words that you said. I think for me sitting with CompTIA, one of our biggest things that we understand is that it's an ecosystem. So granted, a lot of people know the name CompTIA, but it's not just us out here doing the work. We are collaborating with communities. We have to work with communities in order to change the lives of these individuals that, you know, we want to come into this industry. And it's beyond, it's the passion, but it's also the respect to understand we're creating opportunities for life changing. As you guys will see throughout this conversation, because we're hoping this is a conversation and not a presentation. You will see the passion that's in there, that's within as I'm speaking and understanding, you know, why I'm putting such an emphasis, particularly on IT. Of course, that's the seat that I sit in, but you know, just changing the conversations of a typical trade or typical occupation, allowing the exposure and allowing individuals to get into these thriving industries that are only going to continue to grow. So I'm excited to be here, work with NABE. I feel like there's the symmetry, the alignment between all of us. So I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Indeed. And to kick us off, first of all, I mean, there's a lot of alignment throughout all of our roles, right? Which speaks to that ecosystem nature of this work. In the chat, I'm seeing people from community colleges. I'm seeing K-12 systems. I'm seeing CTE leaders. I'm seeing industry folks. And part of why we wanted both of you all to join today is that Brittany has the industry perspective. And then Dr. Zenon, you have the perspective from a practitioner or someone that's still in the field as an educator. Something that I think we all can just immediately speak to the elephant in the room are the barriers, right? What is getting in the way of young women trying to find their way to these non-traditional career pathways? And there's a few. So we can start wherever you all want to and kind of walk around them, because I think that we can't get to the solutions point without thinking through what exactly stands in the way.
So I'll go ahead and start. I think one of the biggest things, tech. I'm in the tech industry, getting especially women into tech, the confidence, the lack of confidence, feeling as though it is a male dominant industry. I'm just going to call it out. It's a white male dominant industry, and they don't have an engineer background or some type of hard science, that they're not capable of doing the jobs. But little do a lot of people understand, you don't have to have a hard science background. You don't have to be a white male. There's so much room for women in this industry that it phantoms me that some people are still not being educated or told about the opportunities. When they think of tech, they think that they have to build a computer. I'm here to attest, I don't build any computers. I'm not building nothing. But I think more so the confidence, the exposure, the education about what that career pathway could look like for them, what the opportunities are. Once you get your foot into the door, the room is literally limitless. But I think it's a lot of the confidence, the feeling as though you don't belong in this room, you don't belong in this industry, there's not space for you. Whether you're a writer or a data analyst or a mathematician, I guarantee you there is room for everybody in the tech industry with your particular background. You just have to find that career pathway and then run it. Just run it.
So I will add to that. I have had some experience in IT, but as Brittany indicated, I kind of reside in academia right now. But you know, that in of itself exposes you to a wide variety of environments. And I will say that lack of knowledge, a lot of times, you know, females or underrepresented students just don't know enough about the various tech careers to make valid choices. The other is, as Brittany alluded to, that level of self-confidence, but also along with that becomes the academic preparation. Let's face it, some of our students are in environments where just sheer access is an issue, right? And even if they do have access, sometimes, you know, having the actual opportunity to utilize that access in a productive way, it isn't there. You know, and honestly, I think we can just say the pandemic exposed a lot of that. The lack of access, and then what do you do once you have that access, right? Using it in a solid way. But I always tell people we could fix all of those things on our side, in our wheelhouse. But if we don't tackle industry from the perspective of their acceptance, their willingness to reach and embrace those students that we are working very hard to prepare to go into those fields, right? I told someone that nothing will create more frustration in a young person than doing, taking the right steps, doing what people are telling them, getting the training, going to school, preparing themselves, only to find that there's really no opportunity because industry and the folk that have, you know, ownership of those jobs and positions don't invite them in. So, we have to tackle it from both sides, from all sides, right? We have to bring up young people so that they have that self-confidence to know that they can do anything they want to. You would think we've been preaching this for years and it would have really got in the brain, but we still have a lot of young people that we have to address in that way. We have to address the level of preparation, and then we have to address the industry and acceptance of those folk with the training. So we definitely have our work cut out for us in tackling this problem, and that's why some of the things that I see in the chat are really incredible, because people are trying to find innovative ways to address these issues.
Yeah, and I would just underscore what you just said, Esperanza, because I think what I'm seeing in the chat, and then also what I know to be true of your work and Brittany's on the industry side, but developing partnerships, and you develop partnerships to support your students, is this idea of collaboration, right? But when you collaborate, it has to be an informed collaboration, because if we're preparing students and it's in the wrong direction, or it's with skills that aren't applicable to the industry demands of their environment, then we miss an opportunity to really set them up for success. And so part of the conversation is also about what skills do we hope to see. And Brittany, I would love for you to answer that, especially knowing how much you do in terms of workforce development. What are some of those intangibles that you know for a fact, not even just speaking to CompTIA, but you have a lot of friends across the kind of industry and workforce development space. Are there any skills that come to mind that you would want our audience to be aware of? Specifically like 21st century skills that are pretty much transferable throughout the different spaces.
Yeah, so Brittany, it's funny that you say that, because this skill set, I mean, beyond being able to, communicate, you would think communication is a skill, and a lot of people don't have that skill set. So that's something that we really focus on top of just, operating a computer. There's a lot of like digital skills that we're having to retrain individuals on. I would definitely say sending an email, things that we think that are basic skill sets, but we're having to retrain individuals because either they're not doing it in their education system, or some skills, they're not doing it in their education system, or we think that they already understand this because a lot of people are glued to their phone, they're glued to a cellular device. But going from a cellular device to a computer are two completely different things. So it's that digital skills, teaching them that. On top of that, kind of organizational skills. You have to have a level of organizational skills as you're going through these training programs. And I mean, I just see it across different sectors when I'm talking to people. Learning skills, everybody essentially doesn't digest information the same. So being able to educate an individual to the point where they understand it, because I could sit here and say, write it down for me, I can comprehend this information. Another individual may say, I need to physically do it in order to retain that. I'm just trying to see what else. There's so much.
Yeah, so I will jump in and add, we talk about having a strong set of soft skills, right? but I try to emphasize to folk that for each of us, we could recall and chart our own journey at becoming more polished where these soft skills are concerned, and recognize that um we didn't get there without the mentoring, without the love, without folk taking us under their wing and guiding us to help us become that polished individual that we are now. um and so um I say we have a responsibility to reach in there and help our young people to get those skills. Um, we have a responsibility to work closely with those folk who are in positions where they're providing that type of support and training. But also, we would be wrong if we said, we don't owe these young people a bit of grace. They're learning, and you know, we have to be a bit patient. I know, industry wants them to come in shiny and batting 1,000, right? But the reality is that this person may have a really strong capability where the tech side, and I'm not just saying tech in terms of IT. I'm just saying in terms of their technical understanding. But there's some room to grow in some other areas. We have to be willing to take a chance, and not shut the door so quickly on young people, because we I really do believe that a lot of young people who are not doing the things we consider viable are really strong in their problem solving capabilities. They get themselves in and out of scenarios that we probably couldn't negotiate very well. They have skills. We just have to guide them in the proper direction and understand that they aren't going to be perfect. Just because you got a college degree or a credential doesn't mean that you have everything working like clockwork, right? So just I don't know. I just call it a little love. We just need to show them a little love and patience, and
And I
they
think
will
that's
get.
that's part of what made me ask the question, right? Because I think a lot of people are not aware, Esperanza, because you're working with young people. I'm still working with young people, but some people are unaware of some of the ways that we can show love to them and support them along that journey, right? The ways that we can model those, what do they call it? Low risk social capital experiments, right? So maybe my hope is that someone hearing what Brittany shared can say, oh, you know what? I have someone that is an intern or an apprentice or whatever the case may be, and I can be thoughtful and intentional about supporting them. Because what I heard her say was we're having to retrain them. That doesn't mean we're pushing them out of the door. It means we're offering them the opportunity to learn. But if there's more experiences along the way to help them practice that, I think that also contributes to the confidence and the self-efficacy. The more that I'm able to get into the swing of what this environment is going to expect of me, the more I can expect what the challenges are as a woman in a predominantly male-centered environment, right? There are certain conversations that I think having them sooner, more frequently, and more transparently can really help support young women as they try to foray into whatever pathway they desire. And that problem-solving piece, I think that's why I'm always so excited to learn from you, because I think that's so true. And that's also something that I wanted to get to about when we're thinking about barriers and then thinking about opportunities, what are some ways that we can prop up solutions around these access points, right? Trina just put in the chat, hey, Trina, good to see you. I missed you. Can't hope to see you at the summit. We partner with local chapters of networking groups like Women in Technology and Women in Manufacturing, and then promote their reduced student annual membership rate so our college students can benefit from access to female professionals already in the field they want to enter, right? I'm also thinking of, I think it's 1 million women mentors and a few other organizations like that. But again, to your point, Esperanza, it takes time to develop that. A mentorship relationship takes time. You have to find the right person that you can trust. It's a trusting relationship. And so when we're thinking about inviting more women into these career environments, what are some non-essentials that you think need to be true about the space to be able to really support underrepresented folks in these career environments?
So I can jump right there. You mentioned the operative word, trust. You know, that works both ways. You know, a lot of times we look at it from our perspective of us being able to trust the young person, but that young person has to be able to trust us. They have to know that we have their best interest at heart. A lot of times we put so much of that whole mentorship and partnership relationship on the young person, right? But you know, but we have to be willing to own up to our part, and you know, because I'll be honest with you, these young people, they can smell a phony a mile away. They know what's real. They know when they feel that you are genuine, that if you correct them or guide them, that you're not doing it from a perspective of putting them down, but from a perspective of wanting to lift them up, you know. So um the mindset and the perspective has to you know, has to be there in order for us to be the mentors and guides that they need. You know, I was looking in the chat and I see a lot of organizations that are providing that mentoring and support that's so much needed. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I will, you know, at my institution, we need these kinds of organizations to work with us as we work with the young people, as they work with the young people. So, you know, that collaborative effort has to be there on all fronts, but trust is vital. You know, I always say standing on top of trust is love. You know, if you love them, you're gonna do what needs to be done to help them in a way that they feel like it is about them.
And to your point, I think on top of trust, of course, we want to make sure that these individuals succeed in this opportunity, but I think you also have to look at like their background, what they're dealing with at home. Because before anybody can be successful in their education or their training program, do they have food at their house? Do they have lights? Do they have water? There's no way that any of us can come to work and we're hungry. We're going to be hangry, as they like to call it. You're going to be very hangry. You're not going to be focused. You're not going to be paying attention. So I can't sit here and deliver a program, but then 20 students are hungry, or you know, they're worried about daycare, they're worried about transportation. How am I supposed to get to school if I don't have money to pay for an Uber or the Metro because I have to go to work? So I think this is where it comes back to the ecosystem. It's not just it's not one organization that's doing it, it's everybody. It's your city, it's your local nonprofits, it's your EDC, whether it's your community college, your university, or a training provider, whomever. Literally, you have to make sure that all of these entities are connected to make sure that you are providing resources for the student to be successful. Because if you're not, they're going to fail out, they're going to get behind, they're going to lose their confidence in whatever program they're doing, and then they're not going to be successful. And then they're going to feel as though, I knew I shouldn't do this opportunity. I knew I should have just stayed at my job doing, whatever, McDonald's, Walmart, wherever they're working. Like, their confidence levels go down, and then there's no self-esteem. And then it goes down to their soft skills. Like, it's a trickle effect of everything. So I think something that we always have to keep in mind is, it's great to bring a program, it's great for the exposure, but it's also like, are they actually being set up for success or for failure? Because my thing is, I want to make sure that you succeed. So if we have to figure out how to bring in additional funding for other resources, then like, let's bring those appropriate parties to the table in order for them to be successful at the end.
Yeah, I can agree wholeheartedly with that holistic approach, right, to supporting young people as they move forward. I tell people, except for that type of support in my life, it would have been impossible for me to get to where I am now. And without, I mean, and think about it, things, I typically think things are so much tougher now than when I was, you know, trying to move, into academia and careers and those types of things. So, I mean, young people are up against a lot right now, and um, we have to take those things into consideration if they're gonna be successful. And a lot of times when we offer mentoring and programs, we focus on what we do with them in the time slot that we have access to them, and that's it. But we have to have some tentacles in our programs that reach beyond, um, the 2 hours we might see them on Saturday morning, right? Because when they leave us, we don't, if we don't invest the time and energy to understand, we don't know what they're going back to. I could tell you stories, and I'm sure all of you got stories, but we know the reality that in order for our young ladies and young men to be successful, uh, we have to invest in their lives and what's going on with them.
I love that. And I want to make sure that we get to the audience's questions. I know I saw you had a question, Dr. Hargrave. If you wanted to go ahead, your hand was up. I wanted to make sure that I hold space.
I was gonna just add to the mix about business and industry's perspective. And just when I started to, it was addressed, so I took my hand down, but basically, transportation and childcare is a big issue. There's a lot of jobs out there, and they're what I would call non-traditional times, night shifts, the shift work, and that's usually the jobs they get in the very beginning. They're not going to get the primary slots. And if you don't have a bus line that goes that direction or a subway that goes that direction in those non-traditional times, it's very difficult for that individual, even if they think they love that particular line of work, to get there. So you mentioned wraparound services. Absolutely. I mean, you need to help them be realistic in their goals, have that wraparound services. I'm going to speak to love. Schools love their students. Business and industry, they want them to be a contributor to their outcome. And they might like them, but they will fire them. And they have to know those soft skills, as was said earlier. But there's just they have to be realistic in what we teach them. We don't want to disappoint them and think that everything is warm and fuzzy, when the reality is they got to be there on time. They got to work their shift. They've got to be able to perform to an academic and technical standard. And so there's that communication that they need to understand, and they don't come in with. Many of them, as you know, don't even come in knowing how to operate an alarm clock or even know what an alarm clock is. So I'm not the expert here today, and I'm gonna cease talking. But that was what I was thinking.
Can I say something very quickly to that? Lou, you brought up a good point. So I would say coming from the industry side, one of the biggest things is keeping people in the industry more than anything. It's one thing to walk out and have this certification. It's keeping them there because they may feel as though they don't belong in that particular organization. That organization is not catering to their needs or molding them or mentoring them. And I think that's why it's important that when you're looking for these opportunities and looking for these programs for the students, that they are also being educated that you may have to leave an organization in order to grow as well. This may just be your step in the door. You may go there, stay there for a year, but it may not be the organization for you to grow. They may not be as nurturing, but I think that's a conversation that you have to have with these students early on in the process, so they can understand, because they may not feel, I know, like the family dynamic. Everybody wants to have a family dynamic at their job, but they also have to understand it takes time for that. It takes time for you as the individual to feel comfortable and for you to trust your employer, then also for your employer to feel comfortable with you and feel as though, you know, you're assistantly helping this business grow. And you're right. I mean, it's a business. They're trying to grow, but they also want to respect you as an individual. And that's something that takes time as you grow within your career path. So it's definitely a stepping stone. I know I've had employers in the past where I just felt like I was there. And then when you finally get to an organization where you feel like you are a part of the family, it's a good feeling. And then from there, you can finally feel like, okay, you know, my work is of value to this organization. But that's something that we do stress. We put out there in the air because we don't want you to think that I'm getting into IT or tech and, you know, life is going to be great. We didn't say that. We didn't say that. Like, this is the real world. Life has its ups and downs and it has its moments. But I'd rather you tell them that in advance rather than keep that information from them. And then they're like, I'm leaving this industry, or I don't want to do this anymore because I don't feel wanted here. I don't feel valued. This is a stepping stone. Like the next, you know, you have to continue to grow. You have to get this experience under your belt in order for your career to progress and kind of get you to the level where you want.
And also for students to know when they have a soft place to land too, though, right? There is a space and a place for you to be supported, right? Like you can expect that your manager should be supporting your success and letting students know that in their training so they know if something is not that experience that okay, this is now the stepping stone point and you probably need to transition somewhere else. But I think the biggest thing is in the transparency of what can I expect in this experience? What life will it allow me and my family and my community? And can I see a life for myself throughout this industry, this pathway, this company, this organization, right? I think that's critical for young women to see themselves. And if they don't, that they see a support network so that way there could be more of them there, right? I want to see if you all have any last thoughts, stories, pieces that you want to share with the group before we open it up to questions and answers. And please, I've noticed you all are not shy in the chat, so please do not be shy when it's time for question and answers. We would love for you to ask any questions that are on your mind. But Brittany and Esperanza, I welcome you to share maybe a success story or something that has recently kind of been top of mind with this topic, if anything.
I'll go
So,
since I'm already on. You go ahead.
So, you know, I do echo what Lou and Brittany said about the you know, being realistic about a certain career path or organization or situation that you might find, you know, you might find yourself in when you're trying to get your feet wet, so to speak. But you know, I also think that that is why those of us who are in those industries and in those positions where we and have opportunity to be supportive of a young person trying to be successful in a particular career space, we have a responsibility to reach out to them, to be you know, I that soft place to land, so to speak, or someone that they can trust and talk to. I was in a meeting several months ago, and you know, the conversation was about females in leadership roles, and you know, I told them, based on, you know, some experiences that I've had, having female supervisors sometimes can be the most challenging experience that you might face, because it always feels like a competition of some sort. Uh, and you know, and I told him, I said, and sometimes, you know, females in leadership roles can be downright vindictive, you know, and we don't talk about things like that you know, we need to talk about things like that to these young people and tell them the reality of what it really is like to work in industry, to become a professional, to be a professional, the process that you have to go through, you know, as we like to say, the blood, sweat, and tears that you have to put into it in order to reap the benefits, right? But we, you know, but as I said, you know, we also have to wrap our arms around them and help them as they're trying to grow. And not isolate ourselves from them because we're like, no, I don't want them to associate me with this person, because I've built a certain standing and, all those types of reasons that we don't, and that's why I can say that I love this environment because I love the respect and the camaraderie and the support that I've always felt in engaging with NAEP and all the beautiful people that y'all bring to bear on these questions. And so, I could only imagine that if we could create this kind of environment for our young people as they're trying to grow, the success that they could have, right?
And my thoughts, of course, I am focused.
Brittany, I think your audio was messing up for some reason.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
Oh, I'm very dramatic, everybody, so sorry. But for me, I was something like within a bio, underserved and underrepresented individual. Is it messing up?
Every time you start talking and then when you stop, it's kind of bizarre.
I don't, internet, technology. This is
Okay.
what I deal with.
Maybe
Still
try
messing
one
up?
more time and then we'll see.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Okay. Go ahead, keep going.
You can hear me? Okay. So long story short, I'm focused on getting people into the tech industry. My main focus because tech is thriving. It's going to continue to grow and really focus on that because I'm trying to change people's lives. I'm giving them opportunity at a financially high income more than anything. For us at CompTIA, we are not against community colleges and universities, but we also know that it's not meant for everybody. So that's our biggest thing. It's not for everybody. It's people just one thing, which is perfectly fine, but we want to allow them the opportunity to make a livable, thriving wage. So we understand that IT is not going anywhere. Why not have a certification that allows you the opportunity to validate your skill set, not your soft skills, but validate, these skill sets that we teach you in order for you to change your life and your family's life in order to continue to grow. I think my audio is messing up again. I'm just gonna.
I think it came back when I came off of mute for whatever reason. I don't know why that was the trick that did it, but I realized that was the case. But I think the beginning of what you were saying was that for your biggest focus is in getting more folks into these thriving wage career pathways because tech is an ongoing, bustling career opportunity. And then thinking about what people need to be successful along that career pathway, I think is what I was making out from what you were saying. Okay, perfect.
That's exactly what I was saying.
I'm a Zoom professional now at this point. And I see we had a question in the chat from Madison Area Technical College. Sarita would like to know, what are some events, programs, opportunities you currently offer to students that you would recommend we give a try? I'm the only person in my NTO support position, so ideally doable by one person. So any ideas for events, programs, and opportunities that you've seen be successful for students? And I also welcome others in the chat. I saw a couple of people, I believe Ward Lyon put something there in the chat, and then also inviting others to kind of respond in the chat to what Sarita asked as well. And Sarita, one thing that I'll offer just off the top, and then I'll open it up to our panelists, but we're part of, NAEP is part of STEM Connector, and it looks like they have 1 Million Women Mentors that's active in Wisconsin. So I'm gonna put it here as a reply to you in the chat. Since you're all on your own and you're thinking about inviting more young women to participate in STEM careers, this might be a good group for you to contact and connect with since they have a local chapter in your state. If I'm correct that you're actually in Wisconsin, don't judge me if for whatever reason you're from some other Madison Area Technical College that's not in Wisconsin, but you can go on that site and figure out if your state has that initiative also.
So I can add a couple based on some experiences that I've had and know about. So the National Girls Collaborative Project is one. Sci Girls. There's Teen Science Cafe. Trying to think of a few others that I know about. There's another one, but it escapes me right now. I'll try to look it up, and I'll share it, and y'all can send it out at some future point. But there are a lot of great organizations. In my area, there's one called STEM Gyms, and I do think that that's kind of like across the country. It's just there's a branch locally here. I'll try to think of some more, but man, there are so many of them. And don't sell short also, like if there are robotics clubs like First Robotics, they have branches everywhere. So you might look that up. Just a few that I can recall real quick like.
So CompTIA actually has a nonprofit arm called CompTIA Spark, where we focus on young girls, getting them into the STEM industry. So if that's something that anybody is interested in, feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to connect you with them. They have a lot of free resources. They come out, they have a product called STEM in a Box, where they essentially show you what the career would look like. These are for the girls that are middle school and early high school that are, thinking about other career opportunities, because as we all know, it's been fed in the schools, a lawyer, doctor, engineer, accountant, and they're starting to push out STEM more, but also what does that look like? I think especially with this generation coming up, they're hands-on. They want to see. They want to get on TikTok and Instagram and see what this career looks like. But in order for them to see it, you have to tell them this is what the career looks like. So if anybody's interested, like I said, CompTIA Spark has a lot of resources that can provide a lot of trainings, CompTIA trainings. You can have these students getting out of high school with a certification. So essentially what that means is that they don't have to go work at the fast food. They can start making $30-ish an hour at the age of 17, 18, sometimes even 16, depending on your school district and what they allow. But you're essentially creating opportunities for them early on in life for exposure and to start getting into a field where they're making money. So if that's something that you all are interested, I'm happy to provide more info.
For folk that are maybe in more of the Southeast United States, there's a project called the WALS Project. And one facet of the WALS Project is what they call their coding boot camp. And they offer opportunities for folk to, get a credential in IT. And they even help them because they invite industry to come in as those students are doing their capstone presentations. And so some students, based on their presentations, get hired right on the spot. And then they're making, real good salaries right out of high school.
And very quickly, just to tag on to that, for those of you all in here, just to kind of to put in your head, when I know a lot of programs have like IT training, tech training, just read the fine print, just read it a little bit, because what I've seen also, a lot of students are going through these programs and they're coming out with these credentials essentially, and they're saying they're not able to find a job. So just pay very close attention to what credential they're actually getting and what does that credential mean? Because a lot of these may say, good job, you did Microsoft Office, which is great. I think you should know this information, but it's also like, does this certificate, credential, or certification actually lead to a job role? So I just want everybody to kind of be on the lookout for that, because we see it a lot. I talk about it a lot. And then I have individuals that I'm actually working with now. They went through a program and they're like, I can't find a job, but it's also like, what did you do? What was the training? So I would just say, before you decide to move forward with somebody, just pay attention to what exactly the program is that you're looking to do for your students.
Thank you. And I'm so excited that we have such an active chat and hands up, but we are almost at the end of our meeting. And so I want to be mindful of everyone's time since we keep these nice trim to the hour. But before we close and before I transition it back to Gregory, I want to close by asking Brittany and Esperanza if you can think of one word or one idea that comes to your mind. If we have the world we desire, which is more or equitable access for young women in non-traditional career environments, what feeling does that evoke, or what word does that put into your mind if we are successful?
I can only think of one word, and that's love.
Mine's is optimistic.
Beautiful. Love and optimism. That is a wonderful way to close a very generative discussion. Thank you all for participating in the chat. Thank you. Yes, we will be sharing out the links. We will try to glean those from the chat and send them out, because I think the chat file saves as a text file, so we would try to make sure that we get it out to everyone. And I'm going to invite Gregory back to close us on out. But thank you very much, Brittany and Esperanza. It was truly an honor to be in conversation and in community with you all today. This is a really important topic, as we can tell from the engagement from everyone. And so we look forward to continuing to see more change happen as we look toward the future. So thank you. Gregory.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you, everybody. And I just want to acknowledge everybody who had questions that weren't able to have them presented during the meeting. One of the things that I do want to offer is, as we move forward from these meetings, there are opportunities, just based on you having registered for this particular topic, that we can continue the conversation. We can share what information was put forth in the chat. And also, it's an opportunity to share out on the questions that you have, so that as a collective, you each can have an opportunity not only to ask questions of the community, but to respond to those questions as well. So I just want to elevate that, because there were some excellent questions coming out in the chat that we just, we only have 1 minute left. And so we wouldn't have enough time to really appropriately respond to them, but it doesn't mean that that opportunity is going to be lost. Or we're going to try to keep this conversation, as well as the other conversations that we've started with these meetings, going. And so, in thanking everybody, I also want to remind you that, this is a monthly meeting, and we're coming up in February with our next meeting. I'm asking if you can save the date, February 21st, 3 p.m. Eastern. Equity in Special Education, Ensuring Inclusion and Support in CTE. Again, these are your topics. These are topics that have come out as a result of your input and feedback. Certainly, if there are other kinds of topics and conversations that as a collective you want to have, take the opportunity to fill out the surveys that we push out to the community, and let us know what you feel and what's resonating with you. So on that note, we're at the top of the hour. I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank Brittany. I want to thank our guests, Brittany and Esperanza, and all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and take care of yourself.
Thank you, everyone. Great to see everybody.